Hello and welcome to our latest and greatest, I don't know what number this is, 30? I don't know, no, it can't be that high, but it's up there, of our delving into metaphysics, and I've been reviewing a lot of stuff, and it's going to get only all the more interesting. I apologize for the mess. We are actually starting to get into some shows, which we are starting this weekend, or next weekend. So it's been kind of chaotic, and but of course we will continue with the videos. But as far as I'm using a book here, as you know, to help because, like I said, I don't have the gift of gab, and I'm not one that can really just sit there and talk about something. I would much rather quote, people who are more authoritative than me, because they know what they're talking about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am not intelligent, or I'm not intelligent by a long stretch, but there are some things you delegate, to someone who knows a lot more about something than you do, and that is certainly the case here with this kind of stuff. Though I give you a lot of my interpretations, and but as always, the idea is to make you think. But to summarize what we have been talking about, what we call vibrational medicine, and one thing for this book he has at the end of the chapters, he calls them key points to remember, and I think that it's kind of like a capsule summary, and I think it's really good. And we're going to go through these before we get into something new. The key points to remember from what we talked about so far is: 1, most orthodox approaches to healing, including drugs and surgery, are based upon the Newtonian viewpoint that the human body is a complex machine. Once again, no one's going to argue this. And it is by its own nature. This is not evil. This is not bad, and it certainly is. Let me put this way to you. I am currently studying the cell again, as far as what happens inside a cell, and I can only do it for so long before I start to get blown away, because it's so incredibly complex. I actually have to take a few steps back and wrap my brain about what I just read for it to make sense. 2, the Einstein viewpoint of vibrational medicine sees the human being as a multidimensional organism made up of physical/cellular systems in dynamic interplay with complex regulatory energetic fields. Vibrational medicine attempts to heal illness by manipulating these subtle energy fields via the body instead of manipulating the cells and organs through drugs or surgery. Once again, I hate to keep harping on this, but it's true. I'm not saying that's evil, or I don't think they're looking. If you break an arm, and your arm is broken 2 places, hey, I think you want surgery. It's got to be fixed. But it has its time and place, is what I'm trying to say. The holographic principle says that every piece contains the information of the whole. This principle is mirrored in the fact that every cell in the human body contains the master DNA library on how to create that entire human being. Once again, with the exception of the red blood cells. That speaks for itself. The etheric body, or etheric, I've heard it pronounced both ways, is a holographic energy field or template that carries information for growth, development, and repair of the physical body. While the genes within DNA direct the molecular mechanisms, like what I'm studying right now with the cell, which govern the development of individual cells, the etheric body guides the spatial unfoldment of the genetic process. In other words, the etheric body, call it, when you think of it, it's your hookup, your energy hookup to the rest of the universe, your aura, which is, if you don't think you're not connected to the rest of the universe, Think again. At the quantum level of subatomic particles, all matter is literally frozen. Particularized energy fields, such as frozen light. Complex aggregates of matter, also known as molecules, are really specialized energy fields. Just as light has a particular frequency or frequencies, so does matter have frequency characteristics as well. The etheric body is composed of matter of higher frequency than physical matter, and so is referred to as subtle matter. The universe itself may be a tremendous energy interference pattern with the same characteristics and actually is a hologram. By decoding a small piece of the universal hologram, one may unfold information about the whole universe stored within the matrix. The selective focusing of consciousness via psychic attunement may hold the potential for the decoding of the universal hologram. I'm actually ashamed to admit this. Most people have seen a movie, I think it was Keanu Reeves, called The Matrix. I understand it's excellent. I've never seen it. Do you believe that? I've never seen it. I'm going to have to correct that. I'm going to have to watch that movie. The movement of the life force into physiological and cellular systems is guided by the subtle patterns within the etheric body, as well as by higher frequency inputs into the human energetic system. Various vibrational healing modalities such as homeopathy, flower essences, crystals can influence these subtle patterns to improve human functioning and heal illness. Now, we're going to look, for the rest of this short video today, we're going to look at maybe a little bit of history. Because to understand where it is today and why it is, you have to, you always got to look back. It's always good to look back to see where you came from, so to speak. So this is called the historical perspectives on the art and science of healing. The state of the art in hospital medicine is synthetic drug therapy. How many people go to the doctor, they want that magic bullet, they want that magic pill that's going to cure all their ills with no side effects? Yeah, good luck on that one. This sophisticated approach, and it is sophisticated, and these drugs that they develop, I'm not saying they're all evil, they're all bad, not at all. And the amount of money that is spent on research and development on these things is, well, that's a good part of the reason that these drugs cost what they do. This sophisticated approach to disease intervention is based on the knowledge of Newtonian billiard ball mechanics, that's a good way of looking at it, molecular biology, drug receptor interactions, and pharmacokinetics. Presently, man-made agents are manufactured in test tubes and administered to patients in precisely calculated dosages. To evaluate a drug's effectiveness, doctors will look for a precise relationship between drug dosage and responses. Scientific advances in pharmaceutical or pharmacological medicine have all but antiquated the use of once common natural or herbal remedies. The Newtonian model of synthetic drug therapy does allow physicians to make reliable predictions of drug behaviors and eliminate certain side effects of natural remedies, but at what expense? Perhaps there is an important healing energy factors which have been left out of the scientific transformation from herbal healing to drug therapy. Perhaps it's time to integrate the Einstein concept of matter as energy into our system of disease intervention. The Einstein view of matter as energy may present new reasons for re-examining the healing property of natural plants, from which today's synthetic drugs are derived to a large part. To understand why medicine has remained focused on the present Newtonian level of modeling, it may be useful to examine the history and the evolution of drug therapy from its earliest roots. Contemporary physicians tend to view herbal medicine as a primitive approach. The The image of the herbalist envisioned by most scientific doctors is that of the traditional healer or the witch doctor. Their jungle medicine is, as practiced in tribal societies, consists of administering herbs and roots indigenous to the geographical region as prescribed for specific illnesses by a traditional healer. Though this might be the nature of healing arts in various primitive African tribes today, it also describes the way medicine was practiced by doctors in Europe and Asia for centuries. Among the earliest known records describing the practice of herbal medicine it was called the Pen Bao, B-A-O. This document, left by the ancient Chinese herbalist, dates back to 2800 BCE and lists 366 plant drugs used to heal various ailments. Perhaps the most famous of these textbooks was one called Materia Medica. It was created in the 1st century and by an army surgeon from Asia Minor. In his book, he attempted to organize all the current medical information on plant drugs into one informative text. Each entry contained a specific each entry concerned a particular plant and gave a detailed account of the plant's medicinal properties, a small drawing of the plant, and the ways that the plant was to be prepared for administration, and dosage suggestions and possible toxicities. From a historical viewpoint, herbal medicine lies at the very root of modern drug therapy. Herbs contain various active chemicals and have definite physiological effects relative to the amounts given. Many of the drugs in use today have their origins in well-known herbs, used for treating illnesses by the early physicians. Scientific research in pharmacologically has validated many of these benefits, which have been attributed to herbs. Few people realize that common aspirin has its origins in herbal medicine. It is only recently that modern physicians have begun to comprehend the varied molecular mechanisms by which aspirin has its effects. I forget the name of the tree bark that people would chew on and they would get relief. And it was the salicylic acid, which is the basis of aspirin. And in actuality, I cannot remember now the name of they work on prostaglandins. That's one of the things that how you feel pain, and what aspirin does is it shuts down prostaglandins. And they've only recently figured that out. Interesting. The prototype today example of today's drugs, borrowing from yesterday's herbal medicines, is the foxglove leaf and its primary active agent, digitalis. Herbalists in the late 1700s knew that the foxglove plant worked in the treatment of fluid retention due to heart disease. Later, 20th century scientists discovered that digitalis was an active ingredient in foxglove, which endowed the plant with beneficial cardiac effects. By utilizing modern research techniques, doctors have come to understand the cellular and molecular effects that enable digitalis to affect the ailing heart. There's nothing wrong with this. Let them figure out what herbs do, how it works chemically, because obviously that's how it works. Because of the great strides in technology and organic chemistry, digitalis, or rather now its synthetic counterpart, dioxygen, D-I-G-O-X-I-N, is now manufactured in test tubes or beakers. Modern doctors have dispensed with the plant source in favor of the pure synthetic drug. Utilizing synthetic dioxygen, exact dosages based on a patient's body weight and age may be given. Blood bubbles of the drug can be easily monitored for maximum therapeutic versus toxic effect. In a sense, drug therapy is a cleaner form of herbal medicine. By isolating the active substances within the known healing plants, the herbs themselves are being replaced by pills and potions, which contains synthetic version of the active plant ingredients. But here's what happens. I don't know. I really don't know what it says from this point forward as far as, but when they have often found when they can actually make synthetically another chemical, it doesn't work, or it doesn't work as well. We'll talk about why. One criticism of the newer drug approach as compared to herbal medicine is there are so many different substances present within the natural plant that sometimes it's harder to distinguish and isolate all of the therapeutic chemicals. When a patient takes a pill containing a single active drug, he may be missing out on the therapeutic benefits he or she ingested with the original healing plant. Those extra ingredients contained within a herb may often offer additional aid towards resolving the patient's illness. Make sense? Unfortunately, there are few available research studies which compare the herbal treatments of disease with synthetic drugs derived from the same plants. The drug proponents counter with the argument that there is a considerable variability of active drug concentration within several samples of harvested plants. In other words, it's not the same. By giving a measured amount of a pure drug, it is much easier to scientifically calculate and administer appropriate dosages for patients based on various parameters, including age, weight, body surface, etc. It is also easier to establish the predictability of drug effects as well as minimize toxicities when calculated amounts are given. Both schools of thought had valid arguments. If in fact they were always studying only dosage-related drug effects. Homeopathy, an offshoot of herbal medicine, may suggest additional reasons why the primary plant can be more valuable than the chemically synthetic drug. And that will be our subject of our next video, is homeopathic, which is medicine, which which at one point was a thriving industry. It was I may have said this before, so excuse me. Back around late 1800s, early 1900s, there were entire hospitals that were homeopathic. And then they said, oh, let's get scientific and do away with that. And that may have been a grave mistake. For as much as it's been my experience as I read and learn, that much of the idea of a life force and the ancient healing of Indians and ancient civilizations, and they were much more on target than we are now. More to come.